Right now, I am on the Gettysburg battlefield, and I'm at one of my favorite places on the battlefield. This is Culp's Hill, which is an area that typically gets overlooked just a little bit. But this spot right here was the place that saw the most sustained combat during the Battle of Gettysburg. And as you might imagine, there were a lot of bullets that were flying around here. And today, we've brought a few artifacts from the Gettysburg Museum of History out here that are just pretty darn unique. Like I mentioned, we are on Culp's Hill, and right now I'm at the top of the hill where the observation tower is located. During the battle, this area would have been held by the 12th Corps of the Army of the Potomac. In the 12th Corps was a general by the name of George Sears Green. He was the oldest commander on the battlefield that day. His nickname was Pat Green, and he was responsible for the Union building all kinds of breastworks along these lines. And they have a monument to Pat Green up here. Now, as I mentioned, we are up on top of Culp's Hill where the tower is located, and just a little bit from the tower is this monument to George Sears Green. So Green was the commander of the 3rd Brigade in the 2nd Division of Slocum's 12th Corps, and was an old engineer and was a highly disciplined man. So even though his men weren't too keen on the idea of it, he insisted that they build breastworks here on Culp's Hill. And there's a pretty interesting artifact that was found right up here close to this monument and to the tower.
I'm at Culp's Hill on the Gettysburg battlefield, right in front of the tower on the top of the hill, and I have a really interesting relic with me. This relic is from the Peffer collection, but it's not from the Peffer farm. My grandfather, Fred Peffer, worked at the Jenny Wade Museum when he was a kid, and they used to sell relics and souvenirs there. And one day he took this home for whatever reason. But what's interesting about it to me is it has an exact location where it was recovered on the battlefield. It has an old typed tag here, and I'm going to read the tag. It says, "From a tree which grew 100 feet east of the tower on Culp's Hill, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, cut down on July 24th, 1914. That's right around the time he worked at the Jenny Wade Museum, 1913, 1914, 1915. And I believe it's white oak. There's a lot of white oak up here. And it's got a bullet very firmly engraved or embedded in there. And there was a lot of trees up here that got shot up big time because there was like breastworks up here, and Culp's Hill sustained a lot of continuous fighting, probably more than continuous fighting than most spots on the Gettysburg battlefield. So there's a lot of lead flying around up here, and just a really neat artifact. I never brought this back. We're about at the spot where this tree would have been cut down, about 100 feet or so east of the tower. So never brought it back, and brought back for the first time since 1914. Here's another interesting battlefield relic from Gettysburg that was found on Culp's Hill. This is a clump of lead, but it's actually 4 bullets. And these are 4 bullets that hit at the same spot in a tree. You can see that there's pieces of wood in there. So this was actually embedded in a tree. Now, you may say, how do I know that it's 4 bullets? Well, we weighed a mini ball, like a standard Civil War bullet, and we weighed this, and this weighs almost exactly 4 times what a mini ball weighs. And so this is 4 bullets that hit the same spot in a tree on Culp's Hill. And this was found decades ago by a local person, and long time ago, people sometimes found relics, but after 1979 or so, it's now illegal to take anything off the battlefield. So there's no more finding relics on the Gettysburg battlefield. It's highly illegal, so don't do it. But the way this was found was sometimes people, knowing up on Culp's Hill that there was a lot of fire going on and a lot of trees that were hit. There's all kinds of photographs of the trees that were damaged up here. Sometimes they would kick at a log, something like this, and if they see a rotted log that they thought was old enough to be a Civil War tree, and this particular person, the story is that they kicked it, and they heard the rustling of leaves, that something flew out of that tree. So they went and found it, and it was this. So these 4 bullets were in one spot in a log. And you know, the Union Army had breastworks here, and the Confederates were continuously attacking. There was probably more fighting, that was continuous fighting going on Culp's Hill than any other individual spot on the battlefield. It went on for days. And the Confederates that were attacking the breastworks, one of the places, logical places that would be a good cover for them is behind trees. So it makes sense that the trees were a target of many, many stray bullets. So, you know, perhaps there was a Confederate behind a tree, and he was doing some damage, and some guys from the breastworks was shooting mid-level, and I mean, it makes sense that something like this could happen. It's very unusual. It's the only one I've seen like this. However, there is a tree, and I can't remember what museum it's in, from the Battle of Chickamauga, that's totally shattered with bullets. There's over 100 bullet hits in one tree. So things like this did happen, and if you look at some of the period photos of the trees just after the battle up here, you can see multiple strikes in a single tree. So I'm bringing this back out here for the first time in many, many decades. Very interesting battlefield anomaly.
All right, well, there you go. Those are a few of the artifacts that were recovered from right here on Culp's Hill. If you ever come to Gettysburg, come to this place. This is kind of an overlooked portion of the battlefield, but again, one that saw the most sustained combat during the battle.